From disaster to done. The East Texas Restoration Report. From disaster to done.
So you wake up at, 2 in the morning to a sound that just instantly ruins your entire week.
Oh, the absolute worst.
Right. It's this steady, rhythmic drip, drip, drip. So you scumble out of bed, you flip on the hallway light, and, well, there it is.
A spreading, ugly brown stain on your ceiling.
Exactly. Right below the upstairs bathroom. So in a total panic, you grab a bucket, you run to shut off the main water valve, and then as the sun comes up, you do what you've been paying premiums for years to do, right?
Yep.
Call your insurance company.
Yep. And that is when everything changes.
It really does. An adjuster is assigned to your case, and suddenly you are no longer just a homeowner living your life. You are like a player trapped in a maze.
A very frustrating maze.
Navigating this bizarre parallel universe of jargon and policies and endless delays.
It's a profoundly disorienting experience for anyone. I mean, you go from feeling completely secure in your own home to feeling, entirely at the mercy of a massive faceless institution. Yeah. And the one person standing between you and getting your home back to normal is the insurance adjuster.
Which is exactly why we're doing this today. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a text that attempts to decode that exact fraught relationship. It's an excerpt from the Property Claims Handbook. Specifically a section called What Insurance Adjusters Wish You Knew.
A very revealing title.
Totally. And the mission for our deep dive today is to extract the secrets to surviving the claims process, basically by looking at the board from the other side of the table. We want to figure out how to align expectations between property owners and adjusters. So, okay, let's unpack this right from the start.
Let's do it. What's fascinating here is just looking at this subtitle of the handbook itself, Bridging the Adjuster Gap.
Bridging the adjuster gap.
Right. That phrase alone is incredibly telling. I mean, it openly acknowledges that there is a permanent canyon between what you, the property owner, are experiencing in that stressful moment and what the adjuster actually needs to do their job.
Yeah, that human element is where everything starts to break down. Before we even talk about drywall or shingles, we have to talk about the friction between the two people.
Absolutely.
We've got two people sitting at a table completely talking past each other. Like, you are looking at your ruined hallway ceiling, you're feeling violated, you're anxious, and you just want it fixed yesterday.
Right. Your whole world is disrupted.
You're speaking the language of, this is my home, this is my sanctuary. But the adjuster, they're looking at a set of policy parameters.
They're speaking a completely different language. They're talking about depreciation schedules and policy exclusions.
It's like a bad blind date.
That's actually a great way to put it, because a property claim isn't just a retail transaction, right? It's not like buying a cup of coffee.
No, not at all.
It is a high-stakes, highly technical audit. And the conversation almost always begins with those drastically misaligned expectations.
It honestly reminds me of bringing your car to a mechanic.
Okay, how so?
Well, if my car starts making this horrific grinding noise on the highway, I just drive into the shop and I say to the mechanic, make the noise stop.
Right. Fix it.
Yeah, exactly. That's my expectation. But the mechanic can't just generate a generic, make noise stop invoice.
No, they have a whole process.
They need to diagnose whether it's the timing belt or the alternator or, the spark plugs before they can even quote me a price, let alone actually fix the car.
That analogy perfectly captures the operational disconnect here. I mean, you want the end result, obviously, but the adjuster has to document the actual mechanics of the failure.
So what does this all mean for the property owner right off the bat? Like, are we just doomed to miscommunicate?
Well, the handbook argues that this exact disconnect is the root of early claim stress. And here is the kicker. It's not actually the physical damage to the property that causes the most acute anxiety.
Wait, really? The giant hole in my ceiling and the ruined drywall isn't the stressful part.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
Because that feels like the literal definition of stress to me.
Of course. The physical damage is awful, but it's a known quantity, right? Water ruined the drywall. It is what it is.
Okay, true.
The acute stress, the anger, that feeling of being cheated by the insurance company that comes from the psychological gap between what you assume they will do and the rigid, unyielding protocol that the adjuster is legally and professionally obligated to follow.
So it's the gap between my assumptions and their rule book.
Exactly. You expect a contractor to just show up and fix everything to perfection immediately. But the adjuster expects you to prove exactly what was damaged, how it was damaged, and what it costs to replace it with materials of kind and quality.
Wow.
It's not malice on the adjuster's part. It's just their operational reality.
Okay, so let's dig into that operational reality, because this seems to be where the breakdown really takes off. If we're misaligned on expectations, we have to look at what we're actually misaligned about.
Right.
And the source material calls this specific hurdle scope clarity.
Yes. Scope clarity is the absolute bedrock of a property claim. I mean, it is where the majority of property owners take their very first wrong turn in the maze.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Let's say a massive oak tree falls on my roof during a bad storm. There's a giant branch literally sticking into my attic.
A total disaster.
Right. Isn't the scope just fix the roof? I mean, the problem's glaringly obvious. Why is scope clarity even a debate when there's a literal tree in my living room?
I get why you'd think that. But fix the roof is an expectation. It is an end goal. It is not a scope.
It's not.
No. A scope requires defining the exact mathematical parameters of the damage and the subsequent repair, and it all has to be entirely within the rules of your specific insurance policy.
So what does that actually look like, practically speaking? Like for the adjuster standing in my driveway looking up at that tree?
Well, they aren't just looking at a broken house, They're looking at a future spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet.
Yes. Adjusters use highly specific estimating software to build out your claim, and that software does not have a button that says fix roof.
Of course it doesn't. That would be too easy.
Right. The software asks for the linear feet of damaged aluminum drip edge. It asks for the exact number of squares of 30-year architectural shingles that need replacing.
Oh, wow.
It asks whether the felt underlayment underneath those shingles is 15-pound or 30-pound.
They need to be that specific.
They do. Did the tree puncture the plywood decking? Are the rafters cracked? And if they are cracked, were they already suffering from dry rot before the tree fell? Because if they were, that wouldn't be covered by the storm claim.
Okay, so they are essentially building this microscopic line-by-line inventory of the destruction.
They have to. Adjusters are constantly audited by their own managers. They can't just write a check for 20 grand because the roof looks bad.
Right, they lose their jobs.
Exactly. They have to justify every single penny through that estimating software. And that software requires exact measurements and material grades.
This makes the earlier mention of depreciation schedules make a lot more sense, actually.
How so?
Well, if that oak tree crushes my roof, the adjuster isn't just looking at the cost of a brand new roof from Home Depot. They have to factor in how old my current roof is.
Precisely. If your policy pays out based on the depreciated value of the property, the adjuster has to calculate the life expectancy of those exact shingles.
So it's math.
It's all math. If the roof was supposed to last 20 years, and it was 10 years old when the tree hit it, the software factors that depreciation into the payout. They aren't just blindly buying you a new roof unconditionally.
Right. They are compensating me for the value of the 10-year-old roof I lost.
Exactly.
And that oak tree is a really obvious, dramatic example.
Yeah.
What about something less obvious, like the water damage we talked about at the very beginning of the deep dive?
Ah, yes. The leaky upstairs bathroom.
Right. Because you just see a stain.
Hidden water damage is where scope clarity becomes a massive, massive battleground. Because water is sneaky.
Very sneaky.
You see a brown stain on the ceiling, but the adjuster needs to know exactly where else that water traveled. Did it run down the inside of the wall and wick up the insulation?
Oh, I wouldn't even think to check that.
Right. Did it warp the baseboards? If the carpet upstairs is soaked, what specific grade of carpet padding is ruined underneath it?
So if we don't have that ironclad, line-by-line agreement on what exactly is broken, we're basically running a race without knowing where the finish line is?
Yeah.
We just keep bumping into each other.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Right. I think fix the leak means ripping out my whole ceiling and replacing the carpet.
Okay.
But the adjuster's scope might only cover replacing a 4x4 section of drywall, because that's the only damage they can physically verify.
Which leads to a standoff. And when an owner and an adjuster are deadlocked on the scope of the project, there is an immediate, incredibly painful casualty.
Time.
The clock completely stops ticking.
Limbo. You're just living in a construction zone for months.
Yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because if you talk to anyone who has lived through a major property claim, the timeline delays are almost always the most infuriating part of the whole thing.
It's that feeling of total powerlessness.
Exactly. And the handbook ties these timeline expectations directly to the concept of supporting evidence.
It does.
But honestly, as a frustrated homeowner, if I just email my adjuster a massive zip file of like 100 blurry iPhone photos of the damage, along with 10 random contractor estimates I found online, does that actually force the timeline forward? Does it speed up the clock?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it does the exact opposite.
Wait, it slows it down. It just drowns them in paperwork.
Think about the mechanics of the software and those audits we just discussed. Supporting evidence isn't just a bureaucratic hoop you have to jump through to prove you're not lying.
Okay, now what is it?
It is the exact literal fuel required to run that software engine. Remember, it is an audit of a financial loss. Without clear evidence, the adjuster cannot verify the scope. If they can't verify the scope in their system, their manager won't approve the repair. And if the repair isn't approved, the timeline stalls completely.
The machine just shuts down.
Right. So when you dump unorganized, unclear evidence on them, like those blurry photos or contractor bids that just say, bathroom repair, $15,000, without any line items, you aren't fueling the process.
You're throwing sand in the engine.
You are. You're forcing that adjuster, who probably has 80 other active claims sitting on their desk, to spend 3 weeks trying to decipher your blurry photos just to figure out the linear footage of your baseboards.
A pile of messy receipts and bad photos is sand in the engine. But properly organized line item evidence is the fuel that allows the adjuster to input the data, verify the scope, and set the timeline in motion.
Yes. It's a direct chain reaction.
And that chain reaction seems to be the core thesis of this entire handbook excerpt.
It absolutely is. Clear documentation speeds everything up. It is the golden rule of surviving a property claim.
The text has a great phrase for this, actually. Let me find it here. Clarity reduces friction.
Such a powerful statement.
It really is. It makes me think of trying to return a broken blender to a giant big box retail store.
Oh, I hate doing that.
Right. If you walk up to the customer service desk with a broken blender in a plastic bag and you have no receipt, you are relying entirely on your powers of persuasion.
You have to tell a very convincing story.
You have to convince this poor employee that you actually bought it at their store, that you paid $60 for it, and that the motor burned out on its own, not because you dropped it down the stairs.
You are inviting an argument.
Exactly. The employee has to make a subjective judgment call. You're starting a dispute before you even open your mouth.
But consider the alternative.
Right, the alternative.
Yeah.
You walk up to the desk with the blender in its original box. You have the physical receipt that highlights the exact date of purchase, the exact price paid, and the store's return policy printed on the back.
There is no argument.
None. You aren't persuading anyone of anything. You are simply executing a transaction.
Because you've removed the subjective human element, the debate from the equation entirely.
Yes.
And this ties back to another great quote from the text. Good documentation solves most disputes. It solves them because it eliminates the space where a dispute can even exist.
That brings us back to that specific word the handbook used, friction. Clarity reduces friction.
It's a very mechanical word to use for a communication breakdown, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
But it is used very deliberately. I mean, think about what friction does in the physical world, in a literal machine.
Okay.
When two moving parts rub against each other without any lubrication, they generate heat. They cause severe stress to the surrounding materials. They grind each other down.
Right, they destroy the machine.
And, most importantly, the friction slows the entire machine down to a crawl.
Heat, stress, and slowing down. That is a terrifyingly accurate description of living through a bad insurance claim.
It really is. In a property claim, the heat is the emotional toll. It's those angry phone calls where you leave 3 voicemails and you're pacing the house wondering why they aren't calling you back.
Yeah, the sleepless nights.
Exactly. The stress is the strain on your daily life, your family, and obviously your wallet as you wait for reimbursement. And the slowing down is those months of agonizing delays while you live with a giant tarp over your roof.
So clear documentation acts as the lubricant in that system.
Exactly. Crisp, well-lit before and after photos.
Not the blurry iPhone ones.
No, clear ones. Detailed line item estimates from a contractor that perfectly match the format of the adjuster's software. An organized, itemized list of your damaged personal property with dates of purchase.
So all that preparation up front pays off.
Immensely. That level of clarity removes the heat from the process. It prevents the machine from grinding to a halt.
Because there's nothing for the adjuster to push against. They look at your clear documentation, it perfectly satisfies their required protocol, they input the data to verify the scope, the timeline moves forward, and boom, the gap between you and the institution is bridged.
It's almost shockingly simple when you lay out the mechanics of it like that.
It is. Even though executing that kind of precision in the middle of a literal household crisis is, well, it's incredibly difficult.
It requires a tremendous amount of discipline from the property owner at a moment when they are feeling highly vulnerable and just want someone else to fix the problem.
Yeah, because nobody ever plans on having a massive oak tree crush their living room or waking up to that nightmare dripping sound from the ceiling.
No, you just don't expect it.
You pay your premiums hoping you never have to actually use the policy. But if you do find yourself suddenly thrust into that maze, remembering the hidden architecture of this process will absolutely save your sanity.
It gives you a roadmap.
The communication gap isn't a personal attack on you. It's a misalignment of expectations between your emotional reality and their bureaucratic software.
Well said.
So your goal isn't just to demand the house gets fixed. Your first goal is to establish strict mathematical scope clarity. And you don't do that by yelling at the adjuster. You do it by aggressively compiling clear, undeniable documentation.
If you provide the fuel, you dictate the timeline.
Exactly. You turn a potential nightmare of friction into a manageable, albeit annoying, transaction.
And, there's a broader implication to all of this that extends far beyond property damage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This handbook focuses strictly on bridging the gap between an owner and an adjuster, obviously. But it asserts, almost as a fundamental rule of reality, that clarity reduces friction.
Right.
So consider what happens if you proactively apply this exact same standard to the rest of your life.
What do you mean? Like outside of an insurance claim?
Think about your personal relationships or conflicts at your workplace. How often do we get into massive, emotionally exhausting arguments simply because we never took the time to establish scope clarity with our partner or our boss or our colleagues?
Oh, wow. That's true. We assume they know what we expect from them.
And they assume we understand their internal protocols and boundaries. What would it look like if, before a dispute ever arose, you demanded that level of intentional, hyper-clear communication?
Setting the scope before the storm hits.
What if you applied that same standard of mutual understanding to your daily life? Could you eliminate the friction before the ceiling ever starts to leak?
Something to think about the next time you hear a drip in the dark.